Hey there, everybody. I hope you are doing well. I'm Afefe with Touch by Tarot and Beyond. And if you're new to the channel, glad you're here. Hope you stick around. I am a certified tarot reader, Oracle. I use Oracle cards as well. And I'm also a former newspaper journalist. So that kind of helps give you an idea of my approach to doing spiritual readings. And I try to get the facts and, stay grounded and do my research, as well as, of course, going to spirit for deeper insights. I also do more spiritual readings at least twice a month. I do pick a card readings on the new moon and the full moon. I may start to do a little more of that just because of the times we're living in. I feel like a lot of us need those spiritual readings even more now, even while we'll continue to look at the politics. So all of that. I'm also an initiated, ordained priestess in both pagan, Wiccan, and African traditions, West African traditions. So got a lot on my plate. I try to use it all to come here and give you all good content. Thank you, of course, to my existing subscribers, and of course, to my members. Appreciate you so much. Speaking again of the politics and spirituality, I do host a monthly spiritual politics private Zoom meeting. I'm deliberate about that because I want to create a space that is safe, and where people can be supportive and feel free. It's not recorded. So if you're interested in that, if you want to register, I'm doing the next one. I did one last month, doing my second one this Friday, the 7th at 7 p.m. Eastern. If you want to register for it, you can look at in the description box. I'll have a link for you there. All right, you all. I started to get on here yesterday, held off until today because I wanted to do it after that joint address to Congress. Wow. That was interesting. Other than being an incredible marathon, I did not sit and watch it. I got up really super early this morning, about 5 o'clock, went on YouTube and got some clips here and there, read some articles online, just got the recaps and the salient points, and glad that I went ahead and went to bed, because little did I know it was going to be a marathon, right? Unbelievable. And essentially what looks, I'd be interested to hear what you all think, but I came away thinking like, essentially it was a campaign rally. That's all it was. It was a campaign rally. Uh, Lies on lies on lies. The fact checkers came out and was like, this was wrong, this was wrong, this was really wrong, right? On and on with that. But one truth came out that was really interesting, and I'm going to take a look at that. Pointed up to that box with Melania and pointed to Elon and said, who is in charge of DOGE? Remember the lawsuits that we have going on in the wake of all these firings that have happened, right? And one of the basis of those lawsuits has been that all of this is being done at the directive of Musk, who has no authority. He is not, he just simply is illegal. He has no authority to do it. Suddenly they jumped up and named some woman, I don't even remember her name, but named some woman and said, no, he's not in charge, she is. But last night, he came out, F47, I'll call him that today. F47 came right out and said, well, we all knew all along, he's in charge. That's going to set up some interesting things in the courts, and some interesting things, I think, with SCOTUS down the road. All of this is headed SCOTUS's way. So going to take a look at that. Other thing I want to look at, some of you may have gotten this email from the Kamala Harris Fight Fund. I woke up to that this morning. I'm sorry, I'm not real technical, you guys, so I'm going to do this the old-fashioned way and show you on screen. But these blue dots, according to this email, sorry for that glare, everywhere you see those blue dots is where Democratic funding, people were donating to the DNC during that congressional speech last night, right? Last night, and I think afterwards, right? So all of this money started flowing into the DNC while that was happening. Some of the places are what you would expect. Over here on the West Coast, California, up and down the West Coast, certainly all of that you see in the Northeast quadrant, you expect that. But here's what caught me by surprise, you all. Look at Florida and all that blue, all those blue circles in Florida, including the northern part of Florida, the Panhandle, which is red, blood red. So I want to go to Spirit and see, are we going to see some interesting things happening in Florida, including the special elections? Not going to go into detail on that. I'll do it closer to those elections on who's running and what's at stake. But just as a general, did that speech last night help turn the tide in some interesting ways for the Democrats? All right, going to take a look at that. So DOGE and SCOTUS, the Dems perhaps making a surge, and the third thing, GOP at a breaking point. GOP Congress at a breaking point. We know what's been happening with the town halls, and now they're being told, stop doing them. Just don't do them. Don't talk to your constituents. Don't even try and engage with them. Right? Interesting advice, because in the meantime, the only thing that it matters is your fealty to F47. That is the only thing that matters. Wow, that's really putting the squeeze on them, and that's really setting up some interesting things for 2026, not to mention just in general. Like, at some point, these people leave DC and they go to their homes, they go to their towns. So very, very interesting. Want to take a look at how many of them are feeling, and if there's going to be a rebellion, if and when. Spirit has indicated that something's going to shift, but let's take a look at that as well. All right, so the first thing I want to go in on is this, what we saw in that chart. Did that speech last night give the Democrats a real boost in the arm? Spirit, what is the impact? What will be the impact of that speech on the Democratic Party as a whole? Will we see a surge in support? Will we see more MAGA people or conservatives beginning to support the Democratic Party? We have the Fool that came at the bottom of the deck. Now, if that ain't a shift, you all, I don't know what is. Because the Fool says, gonna try something different. Do something different. Go in a new direction. And so I think this, part of what we saw in that chart, was not just standard, Democrats, but people you would not expect, and fed up people. Perhaps that's why we saw so many blue dots in a state like, and I'm not going to pull it up again, but another state, two states, North Carolina and South Carolina, full of blue dots, blue circles of the apparently funding that came flooding into the DNC last night. We have the 8 of Pentacles that comes on top of that Fool. These are going to be, and already are, people who are willing to put their money behind what they see as organizations and candidates who are going to represent their interests. There is regret, there is buyer's remorse, and we've been seeing a lot of that, both in my readings and many others, and just plain in our faces, media coverage. There's a lot of buyer's remorse concerning F47, and I think this 8 of Pentacles is then, what do we do with that capital, including the money that was donated, the donations that came pouring in. This is, what do we do with our skills, with our talent? There's the 4 of Wands. It came reversed, and I don't always read reversals, but in this instance, I feel like that is a message from Spirit, because this, notice, it very often is a marriage card. That's why you see that couple there, but it came reversed, and that feels like, what's the opposite of marriage, right? Divorce. Yes, that speech last night, because it did not address anything that really mattered. It did not address Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, stability of the economy, job creation. It did not address any of those quote unquote kitchen table issues that many of the MAGA followers, not just the base, but those who were swayed over to his side, did not want to trust Kamala Harris. There you have it. They're walking away. Few more on this. Queen of Swords. That's Kamala. They're realizing they should have thrown that vote for her. Oh, wow. Regret, regret, regret. Queen of Swords, she's a Libra, so I'm feeling that that's more around her. And the 6 of Wands, which could have been her victory. Yes. And because remember too, that email that I shared with you, that chart that came from the Kamala Harris Fight Fund. So even though we're not necessarily hearing a whole lot about Kamala right now, she's busy, and she is still very actively involved. Her people, her offices, they're just doing it a different way, and they definitely are doing what they can to help support the Democratic Party. So bottom line, that speech last night, It actually gave the Democratic Party a big shot in the arm. And I also feel Spirit is saying to remind some of us that that is despite the disappointment that many of us have felt in the decisions made by different factions of congressional Democratic leaders about how to handle it. We had we're just going to sit there and be dressed down and buttoned up and quiet, and our presence will make him uncomfortable, but we're going to be dignified and not cause a scene. We had others like Al Green out of Texas. Can we give him a round of applause? Stood up and waved that cane, and of course he gets escorted out. There were criticisms that said many other Dems should have gotten up and followed him right behind him, but we did have people like Jasmine Crockett, Maxwell Frost, and some others there who wore these t-shirts, black t-shirts with white print messaging on them, no kings, resist, etc. And they made their exits one by one and made sure that their messaging was showed. We had an AOC who did a great video after the speech on Instagram. Might be on YouTube by now, I'm not sure, but you can definitely find it on Instagram. She did a IG live breaking everything down, and she decided to not go at all. We had people who decided that. So what Spirit is saying is, despite the fact that we may be feeling torn, or a lot of America may be feeling torn about not having a concise and unified approach to how to deal with all of this, that is not stopping the momentum. That chart that you saw and those donations, it is not stopping the overall momentum that people are feeling. Regardless to what we've got to do something. We're going to make our voices heard. All right. Now I want to move on now to DOGE and SCOTUS. A looming showdown with them, mind you. Muskrat has been calling for these federal judges to be impeached. Those who are holding up the progress, right? Who are actually holding up the Constitution and holding up the law. But, all of these lawsuits that have been filed across the country in response to so many agencies, federal workers, the deal. So the wiggle room was, then we need to take Muskrat's name out of it, because clearly he's not an elected official. He doesn't have the authority to do it. It's illegal. So, but now, in front of the world, F47 said he's in charge, right? So, I want to take a look. Spirit, is there a showdown looming, coming between that jumped out? Judgment. I was shuffling and this just jumped out of my hand. Judgment, you all, ruled by Pluto. Deeply transformational, and it comes as a result usually of things that are revealed. Some people refer to it as the aha moment, like, whoa, now I know. I didn't know before, but now I do. Lessons learned, things revealed. Yeah. Wow. SCOTUS has got a lot on their hands, and doggone if we didn't get the Hierophant behind that judgment. The Hierophant, government institutions, higher leaders, people who have authority, people you look to, established tradition, the Constitution. Spirit, is SCOTUS going to rule against DOGE or against, I'll say DOGE, because DOGE is Muskrat, etc. We have the Empress. The women on the Supreme Court, and I couldn't find the article. I ran across it and then I tried to go back and find it, but I found an article from last night that showed Amy Coney Barrett in what looked like a really candid moment, like she's looking right into the camera. And yes, the justices are supposed to be pretty stone-faced at those kind of events, but you all, the look on Amy Coney Barrett's face was telling. It was telling. I'm getting the impression that between, and of course, Sotomayor and Ketanji Jackson Brown did not show. Thank you. But this feels like Kagan was there. This feels like there's something about the female Supreme Court justices who are going to come together, and I notice even in the depiction, in this sit down coming together. I think there's going to be, we might see some surprise. And there's the hermit sticking to the law, doing the work, holding up the Constitution, sticking to the routine, sticking to precedent. I think, and look, you all, I've only pulled 4 cards, and all 4 of them have been major arcana. So this is big energy that we're dealing with. If you're not familiar with tarot, when you pull out of 78 cards, you only have 22 of the 78 that are major arcana. And I just pulled 4 major arcana back to back in relation to this question about a face-off between SCOTUS and DOGE. But I think that face-off is headed in some surprising ways that perhaps F47 and Muskrat are not going to be pleased with. And what are they going to do? And as I said, not going to be pleased with and pulled, I got the 3 of Swords. Not going to be happy. They're going to be very messed up. Keep your eye on. I hesitate to give any kind of full throttled, endorsement and like belief in what they will do, because we know half of the reason why we're in this situation is because of their immunity decision, right? Their presidential immunity decision. So I'm not trying to give them too much credit. But the fact is, when he came out, when F47 said in front of everybody, this is the guy who is in charge. And therefore, and that will be used in courtrooms, you better trust and believe it. And so as those cases proceed to, or at least some of them proceed to the Supreme Court, that's going to be some interesting blowback. Because it is illegal. And they're going to uphold, let's hope, let's pray, at least some facets of the Constitution. All right, you all. And what else were we going to look at? DOGE, SCOTUS, the Dem surge, the GOP breaking point. Let's look at them. Ooh. It was interesting. Of course, you had MTG looking like an idiot. And did you see him? She put on her that red cap. Trump was right about everything. Marjorie Taylor Greene, for those of you who aren't familiar with using her acronym MTG. But when he walked past, when F47 was, doing his walkthrough, glad handing, everybody bowing at his feet, he actually patted her on the head with that cap on like a dog. Like, yeah, And she was just grinning. Man, doesn't even see the disrespect. Doesn't even see how foolish she looks. But, for entertainment purposes only, gotta say it. Wow. Wow. All right, you all. The GOP. Been looking at them off and on for some sort of, I don't know if we want to call it a rebellion. Don't think they're anywhere near that. But the bottom line is they're being squeezed from both sides. Now they can't go home. They don't have, not literally can't go home. But they know. They're very well aware at this point of how people are feeling and their constituents are feeling. They're very well aware. And now the fact that they're going to choke that pipeline off and say, well, guess what? If that's how you feel, we're not even going to talk to you. They tried the lies of, well, it's outsiders coming in to agitate. No, it was not. They tried that. Didn't work. Those are concerned voters who are ticked off. All right. GOP spirit. What is the future? Congress people in the GOP. How are they going to respond? 2 cards just flipped. 2 of Wands and the King of Pentacles. I feel like this is reflective of both Thune in the Senate and Johnson in the House. Eight of Wands, yes. Eight of Wands, communication and moving swiftly, but also Eight of Wands, fire, getting angry. There's growing anger. There's growing anger because, and look, even I want to show that somebody's going to ask me what this deck is. Did I bring the box? Yes. It's the City Labyrinth. The City Labyrinth Tarot. Somebody's going to ask. All right. You see that going through the moving quickly, but also blocking, like sight moving, but you can't see the eyes. I love that depiction because that says the way that we're going to see it. I get it. Thank you, Spirit. They may not necessarily come out and begin to openly rebel against F47. Like, duh, did we expect that? But start watching for them to rebel against Johnson and Thune. That's what I'm seeing. They're going to push back. And there's the Empress. Again, she comes. I'm not sure who that is. This is funding. I don't even think this is a person. This is the energy of growth and funding. And it's going to be around the economic hardships. Because we know with the tariffs, the Four of Pentacles, economic hardships. Thank you, Spirit, for the confirmation. Four of Pentacles is an energy sometimes where it's you feel like you got to clutch and hold what you got. Save your money. Watch your budget. Everything, these tariffs and the rising costs of everything. That's what that's about. So that's what it is, you all. We're going to see some rebelling because they are feeling squeezed. They're feeling they got, F47 on one hand squeezing them, demanding their fealty. And then they've got their own constituency squeezing them on the other end. Where do they have to go? They have to go to their quote unquote leadership within the House and the Senate. That's where we're going to start to see the Three of Pentacles. They're going to start to talk amongst one another and build coalitions. Some of these committees, the Seven of Swords, doing it not sneaky, but sneaky. Like, so this working together, coming together, they're going to try and keep it out of the eye, out of the press, first and foremost, out of the media, and out of the eye of, clearly, F47, Musk or Muskrat, Johnson, Thune. They're going to try and keep it out of that eye, but they are going to privately begin to mobilize between themselves. And their first line looks like it's going to be, how do we get rid of and combat Johnson and Thune? And then it goes from there. They've got to try and figure out a way to at least appear. They're going to try and throw the leaders out, Johnson and Thune, as in front of their constituency as, well, it wasn't us. Our hands were tied because of what these people were doing. It's always passing the buck. But their end game is to try and create some room and leeway and leverage to free themselves from essentially tyranny, right? That's what it's all about. All right, you all. I hope that was helpful. Take really good care. I'll check in with you again. This is Wednesday morning early. I'll probably check in with you again on Friday. Don't forget, Friday evening, Spiritual Politics. Check out the link below. I'd love to have you there. All right, take good care. I'll talk to you soon. Chin up. You know the drill. If you've been with me before, keep those chins up, those shoulders back, and breathe. Right? Breathe. We got this. Even if that breathing means expelling words of protest, knowing who you are and what you stand for, no matter what. 10 toes down. All right? I'll talk to you soon. Bye.